Welcome everybody. My name is Josh, I am the Dynasty Buff, and welcome to the channel dedicated to the mastery of Dynasty Fantasy Football. And I had to jump on the channel today because Kyle Pitts just caught fantasy Twitter on fire. The man is 6'6", 240 pounds, rookie tight end out of Florida, and just ran a 4.46 40-yard dash. The big guy can move, and fantasy Twitter was blowing up because of it. And we got to turn this to fantasy, right? We need to talk about tight ends here because they really are that weekly difference maker. This past postseason in one of my big dynasty leagues, of the 4 teams that made it to the semifinals, one had Travis Kelce and one had Darren Waller, right? It really is a weekly advantage if you can win that tight end battle, especially the elite of the elite tight ends. And as you and I have talked about before, paying up for these top tier guys is a great way to bankrupt the future and to damage your team in the long run. But we have to look back to the past, right? Kittle was a 5th round pick in the NFL draft. Mark Andrews was absolutely free just 2 off seasons ago. And so in this video, I'm going to break down the dynasty buy lows, these high upside tight ends that you should be buying this off season that hopefully will pop off and be the next elite tight end. As always, because I love you guys, I'm going to leave the list of these tight ends in the description below with the timestamps so you can jump ahead to whatever you want. Again, if you're new, subscribe. It's going to be a party. That all being said, let's get it. Two quick reminders before we kick this video off. First of all, I finally created a Twitter account. Finally, I don't know why it took me so long. Go follow me at Dynasty Buff on Twitter. Interact with me. You guys can get my unfiltered thoughts 24/7 now, which is, I know, why you're all here. Second, you got to join the Discord channel, guys. We got 60 people in there right now that are constantly 24/7 talking Dynasty. And then on top of all that, we actually just finished our first startup Dynasty draft just a couple days ago. So if you're looking to join a league, that's the place you're going to want to do it. Don't miss out. The information's below. So to kick it off, I'm going to start talking about a couple of young tight ends that their value is increasing, but I think are a couple buy highs. And the first obvious one has to be Adam Trautman, right? We've all been talking about Adam Trautman for a while now. He was a late 3rd round pick out of Dayton in the 2020 NFL draft by the Saints. And when you look at his profile, on-player profile, there's a couple of things that popped off to me. One, he's a big dude, right? He's 6'5", 255 pounds, and strangely agile for his size. He scored the 95th percentile in agility score. Things that I like to see that were on his profile: he broke out at a super young age, right? 19 years old, that's in the 86th percentile, and he dominated in college. When he was playing at Dayton his last year there, he had 38% of their receiving yards and touchdowns in 2019. Now that's unheard of. 38% is significant for a tight end. He had 916 yards and 14 touchdowns. That is a significant amount of production from a tight end in college. So from an analytical perspective, there's a lot to like here. Now, people are kind of down on him because of his mediocre rookie season. He didn't really flash, right? And we don't really know who the future is in this organization when it comes to quarterback. But the reality is, in this Sean Payton system, Jared Cook averaged 63 targets over the last 2 years, and I really do think that that is a target volume that we can expect going into 2021, because outside of Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, who is Trautman really competing for targets with, right? So I do think he'll be 3rd in line. I think he'll be between that 60 to 70 target range. And as long as Sean Payton is the coach there, I do think that Adam Trautman will be a viable low-end tight end 1. I'm not talking about a Travis Kelce next season. He'll be more of that tight end, between that tight end 5 and tight end 10, who is a little bit more touchdown dependent, but someone you can plug into your roster with some upside over the next couple years. He is currently being drafted, according to DLF, as the tight end 19. And so if I'm not going to pay up in the first couple rounds for Kelsey or Pitts or Waller, I'm very happy to wait and grab a couple of these guys later in the draft, right? Tight end 19 still seems a little cheap, and he's someone that I'm willing to buy, especially at those prices. The next really obvious buy I have for you guys is Irv Smith, right? And honestly, he's a buy, but I would not recommend buying him right now. He's someone I'm going to wait till week 4 of the 2021 season before I'm making offers, right? Let's look at his profile. Irv Smith was a second-round pick out of Alabama, drafted in 2019, and things that pop out when you're looking at his profile, he is super young. He is currently only 22 years old. He is one of the youngest tight ends on this list, so that's just something I want to make sure to highlight before we even kick this off. He balled out at Bama, guys. I mean, he had over 700 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns while sharing the field with Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, and Devonta Smith, right? So he saw a lot of production considering all the other weapons around him, and he is mad fast for a tight end. He ran in the 87th percentile amongst tight ends. So in 2020, with Kyle Rudolph still on the field for the Vikings, Irv Smith participated in 73% of the Vikings routes, so he was on the field and he was running routes. He just didn't see a lot of targets. He averaged only 3 targets per game, but balled when he saw these targets. He was second amongst tight ends in fantasy points per target. So I don't really know what his target volume will look like in 2021, because the way I see it, he is probably the 4th in line for targets in that offense. So it's not like Kyle Rudolph was some target hog back when he was with the Vikings, right? He has to compete with targets with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and then 4th, that's him on the list. So his price currently just popped because Rudolph just got cut. But I honestly wouldn't make offers until, like I said, 4 or 5 weeks into the season, because I do think there is a lot of hype around Irv Smith, and I don't think that hype is necessarily going to deliver in 2021 as much as people want it to. I do think he has legit fantasy upside down the road, but it requires patience here for Irv Smith. He is currently being drafted as the tight end 8 overall, and according to DLF, he's being drafted ahead of Deebo Samuel, Tyler Boyd, and Laviska Shenault, and that's a little too rich for me. So he is a buy low, but in the future, not someone I'm looking to acquire right now. The last obvious young tight end that you guys should be trying to buy or acquire later in your dynasty drafts is Cole Kmet. Right, he was a second-round pick out of Notre Dame in 2020 to the Chicago Bears, and he's the standard tight end size, right? And he scored really well in burst and speed score at the combine in 2020. He's a prototypical tight end. Just the way he looks, his size, his route running abilities, very standard amongst tight ends. But there are 2 main reasons to like him. 1, draft stock. The Bears spent a high second-round pick to acquire Kmet in 2020. And 2, opportunity. We still don't know who's going to officially be throwing the ball in Chicago. It sounds like it's Andy Dalton, but Jimmy Graham last season saw 76 targets and then retired. Now, Allen Robinson, who saw 151 targets, we're still not confirmed whether or not he's going to be back in that offense. And even if he is, that's still a lot of vacated targets from Jimmy Graham. So the opportunity might be there for targets, and I really do believe that Kmet is part of the Bears' game plan moving forward. Weeks 1 through 10, Kmet barely saw the field. He averaged around 35% of the snaps per game, but after their week 11 bye week, Cole Kmet jumped up to 80% of the snaps. He was on the field after the bye week, and I think that is an example of what we're going to see down the road. He's going to be on the field more, he's going to start seeing targets, and he's another one of these guys who, at least in 2021, I'm not going to bet on him being a top 3 tight end in fantasy, but I think he's going to finish as the tight end 5 to the tight end 12 over the next couple of years. And if you're looking for the guy who will have a couple catches and a touchdown pretty consistently throughout the season, he's someone who I think will have a steady floor and can step up if he does see increased opportunity. So that was the list of the younger guys that aren't necessarily cheap, but should be popping off here over the next couple of years that you can still buy high, in my opinion, before they really go off. But let's talk about some cheap buys, guys that nobody wants in Dynasty that I think will have some value as soon as 2021. And we've got 2 major post-hype sleepers here. And the post-type sleeper number one, who is near and dear to my heart, is Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was one of my guys last season. He's a guy I have on nearly every roster, and I get it. Hayden Hurst sucks. I can hear it right now. I can feel you guys disliking this video just for me saying Hayden Hurst's name. And I think this just highlights how cheaply you can buy him right now, man. He is the definition of a post-hype sleeper. He finished as the tight end 9 on the season in 2020, and he's still very physically talented. The man is 6'5", 250 pounds, former first-round pick by the Ravens. The Falcons did trade a second-round pick to get him last offseason, and he was decently productive in his first season with a COVID offseason on a new team. He was 4th amongst tight ends in route run and finished with 88 targets. That's wonderful. If I can get 80 plus targets from any tight end, sign me up, man. 50% of his games last year were in those double-digit point totals in PPR leagues, which isn't too bad for a tight end who literally got no off-season reps, right? Now they have the new coaching staff coming into the Falcons here. Irv Smith, the new head coach. He was the tight end coach for the Titans for 5 years, and then he was the offensive coordinator in 2019 and 2020 for the Titans. And in 2020, the Titans were tied for 6th in the NFL in the most amount of targets to the tight end in the entire league. So I understand that a lot of people got burnt by Hayden Hurst. I know I did, right? And there are a lot of negative emotions around Hurst's name just in general, and that's why I think you can get him way on the cheap right now. He is currently the tight end 21 off the board according to DLF's ADP. He's going after guys like Tariq Cohen, Keyshawn Vaughn, Kiki QT, right? So whether you're waiting on tight end or looking for someone to buy super cheap, I think Hurst will be the image of stability this season. Give him another year with that 85 plus amount of targets on the season, with another year with Matt Ryan in this offense. I think every week he's going to be in between that 8 PPR fantasy points to that 15, in that range every single week. And that's invaluable, right? If you have a championship roster, you can't lose at the tight end position. At least Hayden Hurst gives you that very cheap floor on a weekly basis. So Hayden Hurst is the perfect example of a floor tight end that you can get for very cheap right now. But let's talk about some ceiling. Let's talk about a post-hype sleeper that you can get on the cheap right now, who I think could literally win leagues in 2021, and that's Tyler Higbee. Right, he's the image of what a post-hype sleeper means. According to Dynasty League Football, Higbee was drafted as the Dynasty tight end 13 in August of 2020. Well, now it's March of 2021, and according to the ADP now, he's being drafted as the tight end 23. You can get him in the 14th round of your startup drafts, and that is so incredibly late. And so I think he's someone you need to buy right now. He's someone you need to be making trade offers today as soon as you're watching this video. He's a former 4th round pick out of Western Kentucky. Another big dude, 6'6", 250 pounds. He's been in the NFL for 5 years now, and he's a talent. I believe him, right? He was 3rd in 2020 in QB ranking when targeted. And there's 2 main reasons that I need Tyler Higbee on my roster before he blows up next season. And reason number 1 is the Matthew Stafford trade. There is no questioning that Matthew Stafford is a huge upgrade over Jared Goff. Stafford was 11th in accuracy ranking in 2020 and 12th in deep ball attempts. And funnily enough, Tyler Higbee was 7th amongst tight ends last season in deep targets. So I think there's going to be a good marriage here between an accurate, big arm quarterback and Tyler Higbee's ability. Second of all, Gerald Everett is now a Seahawk. He's gone. He's no longer on the roster. And Higbee got famous during that last 5-game stretch of 2019 when Everett was injured. During that stretch, Higbee was legendary. He averaged 11.2 targets a game, he averaged 90% of the snaps, and he averaged 21.4 PPR points per game during that stretch. And he was the tight end 1 during that 5-game stretch. The tight end 2 was Travis Kelce, of course, and Kelce only averaged 16 points per game during that 5-game period. That's what, 5 points less per game? He was insanely good. I'm not predicting that down the road, but I think he has that upside now that he has a better quarterback and now that Everett is officially gone and not hawking targets from him. He's currently being drafted after guys like Nelson Aguilar and Gus Edwards, so he is super cheap and could be a potential tight end 1 as soon as next season. Grab him super late in your draft or go send some lowball trade offers for him like I just did in my Dynasty League. to wrap it all up, the moment we've been building towards is my main buy in Dynasty right now, and that's Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. The man is a former second-round pick out of South Dakota State in 2018 by the Eagles. He is only 26 years old still, is 6'5", and 256 pounds, so another big dude. And Goedert, in my opinion, is a must buy. I need him on my team. He's someone I'm going to do anything I can to get him on my roster at his current price. The man balled in college. He had 2 seasons over 1,100 yards. He had a 30% college dominator rating, and as you and I have talked about, anything over 30% is considered extraordinary by Player Profiler. He passes the eye test for me, and the talent is definitely there. In 2020, he was top 10 amongst tight ends in yards per route run, deep targets, true catch rate, fantasy points per target, and average target distance. The talent and the opportunity is there, and I'm excited about the offense he plays in. Last year, the Eagles were second in the NFL with 30% of all of their targets going to the tight end. And now the Eagles have a new head coach, Nick Sirianni, who is the former offensive coordinator for the Colts. And the Colts in 2019 targeted the tight end 29% of the time and targeted them again 23% of the time in 2020. You gotta buy low right now on Goedert because Ertz is gone. I do not see a world where Ertz is on this team next season, and Goedert struggled with injuries in 2020. He had a hairline thumb fracture at the beginning of 2020. He fractured his ankle in week 3 of 2020. He strained his calf at the end of the season in 2020. So I don't believe the hype is there, right? DLF currently has Goedert as the tight end 7 between Hawkinson, who's ahead of him, and Evan Ingram, who's behind him. And I think that's a good price to pay for him right now because I'm telling you, after 2021, we'll be talking about Goedert as a top 4, top 3 dynasty tight end. I do think he'll be in that range of the Mark Andrews after 2021 is all said and done. He has the talent, he plays on the offense, and now he's about to see the targets. So whether it's redraft or dynasty leagues, Dallas Goedert is going to be on almost every single one of my rosters. But if I'm the Fant or the TJ Hawkinson or the Mark Andrews owner, I'm actually going to try to trade back and get Dallas Goedert and some. That's the move I'm going to make. And in dynasty startups, I'm willing to reach a full round and a half to get Goedert before someone else snipes him from me, because that's how much I believe in the 2021 breakout and the bright future that Dallas Goedert has, not only in the NFL, but in Dynasty. The only concern, in my opinion, for Goedert's value right now is if they draft Kyle Pitts. If that happens, then I could understand his value will not be as great as I'm expecting it to. So if you want to wait until after the NFL draft to make this trade to go try to acquire him, I understand he'll probably be more expensive, but of course with less of a risk. But that being said, I don't care who their quarterback is. I don't care about these injuries that I was just talking about. He's going to ball in 2021 and for the foreseeable future. You need to buy him this offseason. So those are the tight ends I'm going after, man. You don't have to pay up for Kittle or Kelsey if you don't want to. I'm not guaranteeing that any of these guys will hit that same ceiling, but if I can get multiple of these players, whether that be through this offseason or in your startup draft on my roster, I'm happy because chances are one of them will go off or at least give you a steady enough floor that you're still seeing decent enough tight end production. Guys, thanks for watching. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. Please go follow me on my new Twitter account at Dynasty Buff and join the Discord group. It's going to be great. Stick around. We'll have some good content coming at you. I appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time. Peace.